Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to be looking at The Color Purple, the musical. So this came out in 2023. I may have mentioned it when I actually already covered both the book and the original film. So now we are finally getting to the actual musical, which is not as bad as I thought. It's still very interesting. This is a very dark story. If you're, I'll see if I can link, I know I reviewed the book and the film. I don't know if I did them separately or I can, I think I probably just did them together and compared them. So they are going to be brought in to this. So a little background. The Color Purple, the book, is an interesting story, and they never completely, it would be better as a miniseries in my opinion. Nonetheless, it covers two stories. It starts off with two sisters, Celie and Nellie. They're living with what they think is their father, and their mother. Celie is being abused sexually by what turns out actually to be her stepfather, but she doesn't know that. She has two children. She, at some point, I think she's maybe 14, 15. She's certainly under the age of 18, where she can no longer have children, so she stops menstruating. Their mother dies. Nellie is younger. Nellie is one of their neighbors, who is primarily known as Mr. His name is actually Albert. I don't even know if they ever give him a last name. He's attracted to Nellie. He wants to marry Nellie. He's a widower. He's not actually that old. But Nellie and Celie's stepfather doesn't want to give up Nellie because Nellie's young. She's pretty. He probably wants to sleep with her himself. But so he turns over Celie to Mr. to raise his children, and he pretty much uses her. Nellie comes to stay with them when her father, I don't know whether he's gonna try to sleep with her. She stays with him for a little bit, but when she refuses Mr., because again, she doesn't want to sleep with him either. And in this time, she's teaching Celie to read. So, because Nellie's still able to go to school. They're what they know to find out eventually their stepfather stops Celie because he's, again, using her because their mother kind of went nuts. So Nellie is kicked out by Mr. because she won't let him sleep with her and she attacks him. And he tells Nellie, and I think he tells Celie that Celie will never hear from Nellie again. So you read this through Celie's her letters to God. Years go on. She's raising his children. Eventually his eldest gets married to a woman by the name of Sophia. You find out Albert's obsessed with a woman by the name of Shug Avery, who eventually also has an affair with Celie. Various different things go on. Eventually, with the help of Shug, Celie gets Nellie's letters because Nellie's been writing. Nellie ends up with a missionary couple. The couple had adopted Olivia and Adam, which were Celie's children. They go to Africa, and so then you're getting Nellie's letters. And a lot of this is left out of both the musical and the film. You do not get what is going on in Nellie's story, which really needs to be told because essentially it's the enslavement of Africans in Africa. So she goes over there. You get all these stories of how they're living in a village. Eventually it's stolen by the British to be turned into a rubber plantation, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's through Nellie's letters that Celie finds out that the man they thought was their father was not. And that the store that he owns and the land that he owns actually belongs to Celie and Nellie. So short around this time, Celie has left. She's gone to live with Shug. She finds out that after her stepfather dies, he had remarried. And the stepmother informs her, it's like the land, the store, everything belongs to you and your sister. Because when her father died, in the will, it went to their mother. And when she died, it automatically went through the will to Celie and Nellie. So Celie now has a house and a store, and she starts making pants. And this is, again, this is decades later. And eventually, Mr.'s, and they do, I don't know if it's in the book, but in both the film, Celie kind of curses him when she's leaving with Shug and Shug's husband. That basically everything that was done, you did to me was done to you. But until you do right by me, everything you do is going to fail. And essentially that's what happens. Everything collapses for him. The other thing that's kind of going on that you see in both film that also demonstrates African-American life is Sophia, which is Albert's daughter-in-law. She comes from a big family. They're very boisterous. She gets in trouble with white men. She gets beaten the crap out of. She's thrown in jail and is eventually made to serve a white woman. So right before Celie leaves, I think she's able to be free again because it's only for a matter of time. And Sophia she's been beaten, pretty much treated like a slave for the last 5 years. She gets her voice back. And she does actually stop Celie from killing Albert. So Celie's pissed. She's been being used by and abused by this man for, I think by the time she leaves, she's in her 30s. And she's been with him since before she was 18. So, yeah, she had a bit of right to be pissed off. But nonetheless, Albert, they kind of become friends. He gets a letter. Nellie, who has now married the minister that she went back with because his wife had died. They have married. They have the children. Adam's gotten married, but I don't know how passports worked, but they can't prove whether or not they're American. So Albert actually helps bring them back. So it ends with Nellie, her husband, and the children coming back. The one thing that does in fact bug me about both the musical and the film is just how the children speak, but nonetheless. So that is the basic story. The film was originally done in the 80s by Steven Spielberg. He wanted to do right by the author. He did not originally want to do the film. He thought it would have been done better by an African-American man, by an African-American person, probably a woman. But he met with the author. She was tentative, but then she liked him. He does regret not bringing in more of the lesbian relationship, but it was the 80s. Celie was played by Whoopi Goldberg. This was, I think, her first dramatic film. And strangely enough, Sophia is played by Oprah, who eventually becomes Oprah. I have my opinions on Oprah. None of them are good when it comes to Oprah. But nonetheless, and I think it's Daniel Glover plays Mr. So that is the main cast of the film. So, and Whoopi Goldberg does actually do a cameo in the musical. She's plays the midwife as Celie gives birth. So that's where Whoopi Goldberg does pop in. I don't know. She's been on talk shows. I don't see much of Whoopi Goldberg. I'm not sure I like Whoopi Goldberg anymore. Moving on. The musical is interesting. Again, it starts off lights, happy, singing. You see a little bit more of the darkness. You see Celie being taken off. There are various... It's not bad. It's a little bit fast. It does keep the darkness. It does, and I think the film skips over this as well. There's a lot of weed smoking going on in the book. Yeah, it's called reefer, and that's really what, in fact, I believe they don't show this. Shug's husband runs off with Harpo's mistress. And they're doing drugs. Lots of drugs. Lots of violence. They tone this down for the film. They really toned it down for the musical, but not enough. You do see the abuse. I do enjoy it. There's a lot of kind of musical numbers that take you out of the story, particularly where you have Celie and Shug interacting where, again, you do not actually get singing that is part of the story itself. So it's always an imagination, particularly Celie's. You do get a little bit more trying to think. And compared to the film. No, it's roughly, I think the original film gives you a little bit more of Nellie's story. You do not get as much. You do not find out that the Reverend's wife thinks that Nellie is the children's mother and that she dies of cholera. A lot of interesting things go on in Africa. They really should make this a series. Because the book is really, really good. I do enjoy it. It's very, very dark. It's very, very dark. This is not for children. Teenagers, older teenagers. It is a great portion of history. The musical does a good introduction. It's fun. It's just dark enough. The music is great. It tells the basics of the story. It's very, very colorful. The color purple does, I'm not sure if they put this a little bit earlier in the film, so they do later. Because the color purple comes from a line that Shug says to Celie, talking about how God would be unhappy if you didn't notice the color purple. And it's alluding to that God's like everybody, all humans, just wanting to be loved. And the other thing is, Shug is a minister's daughter, and she went away to be a singer, though she probably is doing other things. It is alluded to. She's also, again, bisexual. Celie, I'm pretty sure, is just gay, because she has no interest in men, whether that's something she was born or, lots and lots of trouble by men. And it does kind of allude to, Celie is never married to Mr. Ever. They never get married. In fact, they don't mention that in the original film. It's implied. In the musical, they do. She says it outright. You never married me. At the dinner room scene where she nearly kills him. Though you actually don't get, literally one of my favorite lines, and strangely enough, Oprah could act once upon a time, where she pretty much tells Celie, it's like, do not kill him. You do not want to be where I was at. So, but it's a little bit lighter. You do get, as opposed to the original film, a lot more of the lesbian relationship, which is interesting. Just because of who on earth the actresses are. I'm going to bring this up here because I do have IMDb. Celie is played by Fantasia Barrino. Now, for those of you who are unaware, Fantasia was on, what on earth? One of the singing competitions. I think she may have won. I'm not sure. And Shug Avery is played by another actress by the name of Taraji P. Henson. And I think they were both on America's Idol thing. I don't remember. It was a live action. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. So those are the two. And I do believe they were both on there. They were much, much younger at the time. So seeing them in a lesbian relationship is very, very interesting. Trying to think who else is in here. I actually do not recognize a lot of the actors. I do recognize David Allen Grier, who plays the Reverend Avery, which would have been Shug's father. And then this is, I think, the last performance of Louis Gossett Jr. He plays the old Mr., which is Albert's father. So, trying to think. If there's anybody else I really remember in here. I do not actually recognize a lot of these actors and actresses. But again, I'm kind of out of the loop here when it comes to this kind of thing. But I do enjoy it. Again, the music is really good. It does just dark enough, so late elementary at the youngest, depending. They don't show smoking, which is probably because singers, and this takes place in the 1920s, so and into the 1930s, I believe, when this takes place. I'd have to go back. It definitely happens in the 1920s. And it is in the American South. I just don't know where. I don't think it specifies. I have a feeling it might be Georgia, but again, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, it is very good. The book, I do recommend, but again, much, much older. The original film is the same. There's a lot of violence. This, again, the musical tones it down. It lightens up because there's a lot of musical numbers, and they are great. I do recommend this. It is a good look in it. It's a good addition to African American history. I'm trying to think who is the director, because I do believe Fantasia actually was part of this when on the Broadway, because this was originally a Broadway show. Let me see if I can look to see who the director was. Go scooped up here. Was Blitz. Oh, I can't even pronounce that. Do not know who this is. But I have Blitz. It starts with a B. As usual, I will link the IMDb page in here. But nonetheless, I do recommend this. It is very, very interesting. It is not as bad as I would think. They keep enough of the darkness to make sense. I'm still crossing my fingers that somebody will have the, I'd say, guts to actually do a mini series of this. So you really get to see Nellie's story, because this is an important part of history that you don't see a lot. We learn about slavery in the Americas. We do not learn what the heck the Europeans were getting up to in Africa itself, when they're literally enslaving the Africans in Africa. So it's interesting. But again, the book is dark. The book is very dark. It's very good, but it's very dark, and very real. So nonetheless, that is it for this review. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. We will be finishing covering up a little bit more African American history with Cecile and Marie Grace. Then we will moving on to Kirsten, who is around the same time period in the 1850s, though she's in Minnesota. Then we'll be going back to African American history with Addie, right around the time of the American Civil War. So again, if you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. I will try and link my previous reviews of The Color Purple, of both the book and the film. I think I did those back in 2023. So they're a bit older, but nonetheless, like and subscribe and leave a positive comment if you have one. Thank you.